I'm kind of pissed that the Niners haven't done more this offseason because they're like starving me of content. So let's talk about Trey Lance. This is like a meta conversation. It's not really about the 49ers. It's more about the position they've put him in by keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster. If Jimmy Garoppolo was gone, the way fan journalism would work is everyone would be all in on Trey Lance because there'd be no option. But as long as Jimmy's here, you're inviting a divide. Forget the locker room because that's obvious. But like, just in terms of the way the media and the fans and Twitter and YouTube looks at this team, it seems to me that since Jimmy has taken the team to the NFC Championship twice, that Trey Lance really is held to a way different standard than Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. Like every throw, every word in his press conference, everything he does is going to be, well, he probably had a better read over it. This guy was open. And if he just thrown it a little bit softer, Jimmy would have done better. Jimmy would have done better. And you can't prove it wrong. And I guess some people are going to say, we said this about Trey Lance last year. I don't know, maybe. But I feel like, to me, the problem with, I'm sorry, I haven't let you talk yet. I'm going to let you talk in a minute.
You're good. No, you're fine.
The thing with Jimmy is like, he's a 30-year-old vet who never improves. Trey is 21. Trey, the expectation is he's going to improve. But really, the expectation is he's going to have to be above reproach the entire way. And thus, he'll be the most scrutinized young quarterback in the NFL. Is that, what do you think, man? How do you feel about Trey Lance?
I agree. I think, well, there's a few things that go into this. First of all, one, should he be, like, if you're evaluating him and watching his film, like I know you're going to do with Jack every Wednesday or whatever you guys do, and I'll be watching it as well for my members on my channel, you have to be honest with what you're seeing, right? You can't say, well, it's okay that he got away with that because he's young or he's inexperienced. So I understand that side of things. But the flip side of that is you can end every film session if it doesn't look great and say, yeah, but I expect him to improve because he is only in year 2, right? Doesn't mean he's not making mistakes. Doesn't mean you're not calling it out. But you do have that caveat of, I expect him to improve. When you watch Jimmy Garoppolo, you can't say that because he's 30 years old. Right? That's where the difference comes in. And the other part of this, though, Grant, is it's not just locally. We're going to feel it. 49ers community is going to feel it. There's going to be a lot of criticism there. But nationally, there's also going to be a lot of criticism because you're already hearing it. Marcellus Wiley and other guys are talking about, well, I never heard of anything great he did in practice like we did with Mahomes. They're already talking about how bad he is. So if he doesn't come out the gates on fire, or anytime he has a misstep, automatically they're going to say, see, I told you he's not that guy. And so nationally, there's already this narrative that's been built about Trey Lance that if you see anything that fits your narrative, you're going to run with that. So it's not just locally, I believe nationally. And we have to factor in that so much was traded to get him. More assets were given up to get Trey Lance than any other quarterback in this last year's draft.
Yeah.
And that will be held against him no matter what. And everybody wants things to happen now. If the 49ers don't win next year, even if it's not because of Trey Lance, they will always say they won with Jimmy Garoppolo. Doesn't matter how, doesn't matter why. When Jimmy was there, the 49ers won. When Trey is there, the 49ers do not win. Even if he balls out, the rest of the team is injured, none of that matters.
That's exactly what I'm saying. Let's just think about week 1. We don't know who their opponent's going to be. It could be Denver in Denver. It could be Kansas City. It could be Tampa Bay. Let's say the 49ers lose week 1, but Trey Lance plays well or puts up good statistics. People are going to blame him for losing. People are going to say, well, Jimmy Garoppolo would have won. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has better intangibles. He would have inspired. The team would have played harder. The defense would have played. I mean, you're going to hear all this stuff. And that's because Jimmy's on the bench. And it's a fantasy that you can project. We didn't see him play. Jimmy usually wins. Trey Lance lost the game. Jimmy would have won it. You're going to hear that all the time. So, like, the Niners started 2-4 last year and then 3-5, and they were able to, like, find themselves and win with Deebo Samuel playing running back. Is Trey Lance going to be allowed to start 2-4? And it's not just the media and fans that are going to be nitpicking him. It's going to be players on his own team. Like, what players who are friends with Jimmy Garoppolo? Is George Kittle not going to nitpick every single freaking thing? And not just George Kittle. I mean, there could be other guys too. Eric Armstead. I'm saying, like, are they going to say, well, Jimmy would have thrown a more catchable ball? Yes, this wide receiver dropped a ball that hit him in the hands, but Trey threw it a little hard. There was a slight wobble. It wobbled a little bit. We heard that last year, right?
Yeah.
It was Trey's fault last year. He threw the ball too hard.
Yep.
We really had to hear that shit.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right.
Fucking wobble and
and
like, that's bullshit. But that's we're gonna hear that shit again. But if Jimmy weren't here, all these fan journalists would have to fall in line, because that's what being a fan is all about. But if you have two options, you can go wherever. So you're inviting this, and the Niners think they can control the narrative, they can control the locker room. No, you can't. That's arrogance.
It's going to be much harder to control those things, because this is the first time in 3 seasons that you guys are going to be allowed back in the locker room. That hasn't been a thing for a few years now. Here's where the 49ers missed opportunities, and this is why it's hard. It's hard for me to fully trust that they're going to do the right thing here. Although there's only one right option, and that's get rid of Jimmy before the season starts. But it is hard to trust that, because they haven't made the right decision the whole way. When they lost to the Colts, if they had gone to Trey Lance then, no pressure would be on Trey Lance, because they would have been 3-5. A lot of people thought the season was over then. Whatever happened would have happened. If they had gotten to the playoffs, he would have been the savior of the franchise, which chances are they could have gotten to the playoffs at 3-5 with Trey Lance. So they missed that opportunity. If they had started him even after the 2020 season, when they hadn't won and Jimmy had been injured, it still wouldn't be as much pressure. I think people would have been more patient. But now that all people remember is they are 1 quarter away from the Super Bowl, what they forget is they were also 1 quarter away from not making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. But nobody remembers that.
They had to win in overtime against the Rams. They had to win in overtime against Cincinnati. I mean, they were this close to being 8-9 last year.
Yeah.
Honestly, if those 2 overtime games go differently.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. So people aren't going to remember those things. So yes, absolutely. If he starts off slow, even if he's playing great, a lot of people tag the quarterback with a win or a loss. Doesn't matter how good he plays. None of that's going to matter. And yeah, I think he will be heavily scrutinized for sure.
I think we also have seen, like, there's a lot of people who've kind of been making arguments it's all about being right. And there's a lot of, like, Jimmy fans, and there's a lot of people who basically took the L last year on Jimmy Garoppolo. That was a big fat L for the Jimmy Garoppolo stands. I mean, he has no trade value. The whole NFL rejected that narrative. And I feel like a lot of those guys are, like, ready for revenge. And what they're going to do is, okay, let's give the same exact treatment to Trey and see how he likes it. And that won't happen if Jimmy's not here. Those guys will have to become Trey guys. But if Jimmy's here, you're going to see all these people the spreadsheet and spreadsheet wannabes going to be just nitpicking this dude to death. Jimmy's going to throw a pick or 2 a day, and that won't matter because Jimmy took the team to the NFC. Nothing Jimmy does in practice matters, because he just wins. But every freaking thing Trey does in practice, he threw the ball too hard. It's the wobble and the this and the that and endlessly. And it's really unfair, because let's just be real. Jimmy's had 5 years to prove that he could be someone who wins a Super Bowl with a good team. He's failed. He's not getting better. He can't win a Super Bowl. He's a waste of time. So wherever Trey Lance is, he needs to play. And that's how I felt last year. There's no future with Jimmy. He's not getting better. So frankly, it doesn't really matter how Trey Lance looks in OTAs, minicamp, training camp. It doesn't matter. The whole thing is that he can get better and Jimmy can't. And so you go through the process with Trey. You should have started it last year. You wasted a year. But it's okay. You got it now. He's still 21. There's no reason to have Jimmy Garoppolo on this team. You should be like embracing the process with Trey Lance. But the whole Jimmy Garoppolo contingent is not going to let that happen. They're out for blood, and they're going to be like, he needs to be all the things you said Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't last year. And it's like, man, these are two different people. One guy's 21, one guy's 30. It's a whole different thing.
Well, and here's the other problem, right? So two things, and I don't think this happens, but what if Trey Lance isn't even the starter? What if Jimmy Garoppolo is? How much is Trey Lance going to get killed? You couldn't beat out Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Now, did you draft a bust? I told you he was a bust. Jimmy should have been here. Jimmy's a winner. Jimmy's this. The scrutiny on Trey Lance, if he doesn't win the starting job, even if he clearly deserved it, none of that matters because the coaches are telling you he's still not ready. That would be a disaster. And the other thing that I constantly see is anytime they talk about Trey Lance, they don't grade him on the Jimmy scale. They grade him on the Patrick Mahomes scale. It's never versus Jimmy. It's Patrick Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, all those other really talented guys. So if he comes out and he's not those guys immediately, even if he's better than Jimmy, that's not going to be enough for some people. And that's pretty unfortunate as well.
Yeah. And, you got Trevor Lawrence over here leading the league in interceptions last year. Everyone's still sold on Trevor. There's nothing Trevor Lawrence could do that would drop you off the Trevor Lawrence train. But Trey Lance has to be polished already. It seems to me that actually, if you took everyone had preconceived notions about him, right? Everyone wanted to have an opinion about each quarterback leading up to the draft, and everyone dug in on Justin Fields, Trey Lance. Really, if you just take away what you thought you knew about each quarterback before the draft, and you just evaluated them what they did in the NFL, Trey Lance had 2 starts. He improved. What he did as a rookie was encouraging. Other than that, you didn't get much. And if you try to say you know what's going to happen, it's like you're lying. You just have. You're projecting some stuff that you saw from North Dakota in 2019. Really?
Well, let me also bring this up, and I forgot about this. I tweeted this out around a week ago. I took all the quarterbacks, the rookie quarterbacks from last year, their first 2 starts, and ranked them based off of everything. So completion percentage, total yards per game.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, total touchdowns and turnovers.
Yeah.
So, and I basically gave them a golf score, right? So lowest score wins based off of your rankings. You add up where you ranked and everything and add it up. So first of all, Trey Lance, out of all the quarterbacks, was second in completion percentage, first in total yards per game, tied for second in total TDs, and tied for the second least in total turnovers. He had the lowest golf score of 7. Mac Jones had 9, Lawrence 11, Wilson 12, and Fields at 17. Now, the pushback on that is, well, it was just the Texans. And then that, to my rebuttal to that is, if you look at Jones, Lawrence, and Wilson, all of them actually played a worse ranked defense than the Texans in one of their first 2 games. So you can't really give that pushback. Then the other pushback people give is, well, it was their first 2 starts. But if you look at a guy like Jones, he actually played better in his first 2 starts than his second 2. So, the goalpost keeps moving. But at the end of the day, he was the best in his first 2 starts out of all the quarterbacks.
Well, if they say like it was only 2 starts, that's the whole fucking point.
Exactly.
That's
yes.
the whole point. It's only 2 starts. Everyone's so dug in. He hasn't really played yet. And the fact that he improved from start 1 to start 2 is encouraging.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. Ray says, merch, I need that. Oh, I'll let you know. It's about to go down. Don't worry. William says, what's up, Grant? Jesse, it's Debo fault. If he would have let us lose to Chicago, Trey would be playing and Jimmy time would be over. Yeah, man. They got to dock him like $1,000 from his upcoming extension just for that. Official BNA Music 88 says, we were one drop pick 6 from missing the playoffs versus Cincy, but Jimmy Stans blamed Tart for the drop. Ooh, that's so true. That's true.
It's worse. It gets worse than that.
It's true.
By the way, that game, Cincinnati doesn't even take the lead, and that final drive isn't needed. Jimmy Garoppolo had 2 out patterns. One was at about 7 yards to Deebo Samuel, which would have gotten a first down and basically sealed that game. The other one was underneath to, I believe, George Kittle. He took the 3-yard dump off instead of the other one, which was outside the numbers because that's a throw he can't make consistently. He makes that throw to a wide open Deebo. That game ends before Cincy even takes the lead, and none of that is even needed. Then Cincy goes and scores and takes the lead, and then he almost throws the pick 6 that gets dropped. So really, he needed 3 chances to make magic happen.
It's true. That is true. Gizmo Maltese says there aren't very many Jimmy fans. I'm not one. Many thought Jimmy gave us a better chance than rookie last year. Lance has to play better than Jimmy. And again,
and he probably will.
Here's the problem. If Jimmy's on the bench, there's always going to be the people saying Jimmy would play better today. If Jimmy's on some other team, no one would give a fuck. I'm sorry to use. I mean, he's going to be a backup on some team. No one's going to say he played better. He can't even beat out the dude he's on the, you know what I'm saying? Or he's going to be on some team not playing well because he doesn't have Deebo, Kittle, Ayuk, Kyle Shanahan, Elijah Mitchell, Trent Williams, Laken Tomlinson, Alex Mack. I'm not going to say Mike McGlinchey, though. But yeah, that's what's going to happen. The fantasy won't be there. As long as Jimmy Garoppolo's on the team, people are going to be like, he would have thrown a more catchable ball. The spiral would have been better. His command of the huddle would have been better. The gleam in his eye, his swagger. Did Emmanuel Sanders not talk about his swagger?
Dude,
he went on and on. I was like, what the hell is that? How do you quantify that? Swagger. I don't know. We can't go to Trey Lance till he gets his swagger up by like 50 points. His swagger is 27.
I guess my thing is, and I spend a lot of time around football fans that are not 49er fans, and every single fan base to a T, when you talk to these guys, they all tell you Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback that they wouldn't want on their team. These are guys with quarterbacks that you would assume are worse than Jimmy Garoppolo. I have never heard a fan from another team go, yeah, I would love to have Jimmy on my team. Every single one of them laughed that Jimmy Garoppolo is the 49ers starter still and was last year. That is all you need to know. I don't care what this fan base says. I don't care what Coach Shanahan chose to do. Nobody thinks Jimmy Garoppolo is good outside of the very few that are still holding on to hope. I don't understand it.